Welcome to another Friday.
It's here again. Hope y'all had a good week. Weather's going to be beautiful here for the next week. We have had nothing but rain or wind for about 2 months straight. But for the next 7 days, there's supposed to be no wind, which, if you know anything about Oklahoma, the song that you know about Oklahoma is very
the wind is always sweeping down the plain.
It sure is. And it's made every hobby I've had in my life just a little bit more annoying. You know, whether it's golf or riding a bike or fishing or gardening, though, is one of the things that is not as affected, at least where we are now, where we have a lot of trees around us and stuff. So welcome to our live stream. We're going to be answering your questions and talking about some new features that we've been working on over the past week or two. So we've got Patrick with us again today.
Hey guys.
Is a new gardener. And he's one of our developers that works on the app with us. So we're going to be showing off some of the awesome features he's been working on, and then answering your questions. And then he's going to, I think, last time he was on the live stream with us, I think it was awesome because he really helped catch us on things that we were talking about that maybe didn't make sense to someone that was new, or that was like,
help us explain it simpler.
Yeah, for like, it was like hardening off and like all these other terms that we use. So, excited for Patrick to be with us again today. So
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, man. All right. Well, let's start it off by talking a little bit about what we're doing in our garden this week and the kind of challenges we run into this week. We discovered a bug that we have never seen before, which is pretty rare for us. This is the first time in a while that we've seen a bug that we had no idea what it was. Carrie, do you want to tell them about the spittle bug that you learned about this week?
It was fun. I wish I had the picture to pull up.
It's on our Instagram, right?
Oh, yeah.
I'll pull that up.
I think.
I'll get it for you.
Or I put it on TikTok.
I'll find it.
Okay. I don't know if I put it on Instagram or not. But, okay. So, I was looking on the underside of our squash, and I was looking for squash bug eggs or squash bugs. And I found what looks like, I don't know, like soapy bubbles or, well, spit is really what it is, which is why it's called a spittle bug. Mm-hmm. And it was super interesting. I was like, what in the world is this? So I sent it to him and he didn't know. So like I did a quick Google search and yeah, sure enough, I was like, oh, spittle bug. Yeah, it was.
So it's another one of those bugs that doesn't do a lot of damage to your plant, but it carries a lot of diseases.
Yeah, it can eat foliage and things like that, but like, yeah, they don't do that much. It wasn't horrible. But.
Yeah. So we also saw a snake in the garden, and Carrie, I was very proud of her because she has come a long way in her relationship.
Very proud of myself.
Snakes.
I left.
And she did you name it?
I did not. I just I let it.
Close though, I bet. So she
it was
let
nice
it be.
To me. I let it be.
And when I first met her, she wouldn't allow a snake to be within a mile of her. She was very anti-snake.
Well, or spider.
Yeah, but.
And now, yeah.
Yeah, well, because you've had to battle the squash bugs. And
that's the thing too. That snake was on that squash plant too. So I was like, thank you, snake. Maybe he is that I don't have these squash bugs yet. Knock on wood. But
yeah.
But that spittle bug was really interesting. I like sprayed it off of the leaf and like the spit foamy stuff came off from around it and then it was exposed and then it dropped to the ground. So it was very interesting. It was very interesting.
It's so fun watching her in the garden when she finds a new bug because we're just both down there together, just so excited about finding a new bug. One of the many reasons why I love her. It makes life fun because she gets so excited about every little thing. So if you check out our TikTok, I got to give a shout out to Carrie on our TikTok. She's been putting out a ton of videos showing all this stuff. So she's like, you can see Carrie be a little kid in the garden geeking out over spittle bugs if you go check out our TikTok. Maybe Andrew can throw up a link to that down in the bottom so y'all can. But if you just search for From Seed to Spoon on TikTok, you'll find us.
Yeah.
So.
But I did post a video about that spittle bug on there. So I was like, it was too interesting not to.
And we learned that one of our. Oh, go ahead, Patrick. I'm sorry.
I was just going to ask, what kind of snake did you see? Did you identify the snake?
I did, and I was very proud of myself because I correctly identified it as a decays rat snake.
Oh, okay.
What it was, and then I posted it in a snake identification group that I'm in just to make sure, because yeah, I wanted to make sure, and I was right. I was excited about that.
Those Facebook groups are awesome. Whether it's like the snake or the bug one, like you throw a picture out there, and within like minutes, you've got like the scientific name of it.
Yeah.
And like everything about it.
Whether it's dangerous or not, you know, whether you need to be worried about it, or like a rat snake, I'm sure they probably told you it's.
Oh yeah, they're like, because they always put harmless in front of it too. They're like, oh yes, that's a harmless decays rat, and I'm like, okay.
Isn't that great? Back in the day, you would just mess around and find out. You know, just like, I don't know, it might be good, it might be bad. Let's find out. Now at least you can, you know, have some sort of knowledge about it going forward.
Yeah.
That's cool.
We planted some stuff this week too. We got some more rounds of beans planted out. We got some more rounds of squash planted. Harvest some radish. Harvest some herbs, because our herbs are really doing well. So we're finally starting to use them. Threw some thyme on some fish that we caught this morning, so that was nice.
We harvested some lettuce for our guinea pigs the other day.
Did you try by first?
What's that?
Did you test it for your guinea pigs to make sure it was okay for them? Did you at least try a bite?
I didn't. That's probably my wife's fault. But it's good for us because we've stopped. My wife insists on buying them pretty fresh food. So for me, I'm just excited that we're not having to spend all that money on fresh produce from the store. It's grown in our backyard now. I mean, how much easier can that be? So
absolutely,
saves me a lot of money in fresh guinea pig food. So
we're gonna get Patrick to eat the stuff himself at some point.
I will. I'll definitely do it. I just for those who don't know, I had COVID last week, and so I was out of it in a lot of ways. So I wasn't feeling eating anything outside of some soup and water, and that's about it. So next time we harvest, I'll definitely have to take a chance and try it out.
Did y'all plant any peas? Are y'all growing any of those?
No. We had some problem with some of our peppers, and we had to regrow some of those, but we didn't do any peas. We did Brussels sprouts. We did broccoli. Peas was actually. Did you say peas or beans? I'm sorry. You said peas.
Peas, yeah.
No, we didn't do any peas. Janae's not big on peas, so that's probably why we didn't do.
I'm gonna change her mind.
We gotta.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
They're really good.
We gotta have them over so they can try a pea, because we have peas in the garden right now.
Yeah, just walking out there and pulling one directly off the vine, like
it's unlike any. It's like, because I know what you're coming. Like peas out of a can are gross.
Well,
like,
yeah.
I hated those as a kid.
It's not even close.
But these are like, you know, they're like they're sugar snap peas. It's like the peas that you have in like a stir fry. You know what I'm talking about? At where's the place we go to? We've been, you know, never mind. So anyway, the peas that are in the stir fry, they are amazing. But you eat them straight out of the garden, they taste way sweeter than any pea you've had before. It's way better.
Nice. Yeah, I'll definitely have to take you up on that then.
A little too early to plant. I mean, it's too late to plant them now. You can plant beans now, but beans aren't as sweet straight out of the garden. I like eating them raw out of the garden, but they don't hold a can. They don't compare to peas at all. So, all right. So let's jump in and see if we've got any questions in the chat. Andrew, do we have any questions we can go ahead and jump in and start answering? So if you plant a whole sweet potato instead of a slip in a container, will you get too many slips? You know, I have never done that, and I have wondered about that, and I am curious about that. So let me back up and explain a little bit here. So sweet potatoes are planted differently than standard regular potatoes, if you will. You know, regular potatoes, you cut the potato up into like 3 or 4 chunks, and you plant them all in the ground, or you can plant the whole potato in the ground, and then you space them. You know, we do like 3 or 4 per container, and we do 20-gallon containers for all of our potatoes. Sweet potatoes are different in that you don't plant the whole sweet potato. You put the sweet potato inside of a cup inside of your kitchen, and with some water, and it sits in water, and then you have these little sprouts that come off of the sweet potato, and they're called slips, and then you plant those. So you cut those off and then plant those.
So is that how you see, like, sometimes you'll see pictures of like toothpicks in these root vegetables that just kind of sit in the water in the bottom? You would do that with a sweet potato versus planting a regular potato. You just cut it up in pieces and throw it in the dirt.
Yeah, that's right. So but that's the difference there. I haven't tried growing a sweet potato, just leaving it in the ground, and obviously that's how nature does it. So I'm sure that it works fine. I'm betting it's just way more efficient to do it this way. And that's why it's typically done, because you can get mini sprouts off that one sweet potato instead of, but you know, like I said, that's how nature would do it. I imagine it's going to work fine that way. It's just going to be more efficient to do it the way it's typically done. But good question. Hurricane season.
Oh man.
Container gardens. Well, I think that's one of the great things that we love about our smart pots.
Yeah. Our smart pots, like it's totally movable. We can just pick them up. They have handles on the sides. And whenever we have any severe thunderstorm warnings, hail, tornadoes, we don't have hurricanes here, luckily. But we always just pick them up, move them inside, and yeah.
Yeah, and if you check out our app, it will give you dates for each thing that you can plant now. So there's actually a filter where you can filter by can be planted. And this might be a good segue to show this feature and to show what's coming next, because we've been doing some work on this feature. Patrick specifically has been doing a lot of work on this. And let me show what's coming next. So in the next major release of the app, our goal is to have this out by the end of the month. It's going to have a different look and feel. So you can see here the main plant screen. We've spent a lot of time trying to update how things look, make things just feel nicer. I got to jump to another screen here. 1 second. Too many windows open. Here it is. Okay. So we've got our plants list here. I'm still working on styling this custom button, but that's a hint of what's coming. So let's go ahead and jump in and show this, because this is something that Patrick built as well, where now you're going to be able to add your own plant. So come in here. We're working on building some different images you can switch between having up top. You can go in and you can choose all the different options for the plant. You can set how many days it is to germinate or to harvest or anything like that.
And the thing that I love too is that you don't have to put any of this information in, but it's going to help you, obviously, because it'll give you exact sprouting dates, harvest dates, things like that. But if you don't know it, you don't have to put it.
So yeah, I left some stuff out, and we encourage you, like we were telling you, if you enter a date here, then we're going to be able to calculate dates for you, but you don't have to have that. So, and now you'll be able to log these in the Garden Plus section. So let me switch to a different view that we have that you'll be seeing. It's this group by plant view. And this is pretty awesome because, especially for like a garden like ours, once you have a lot of plants, it can feel a little overwhelming of all the plants there just on a big list. So this groups all the plants. And now you can see, like if you click on acorn squash, now these are all your acorn squash that you have in your garden. You can go back, see your other plants. So that is a thing we're very excited about. It's it's going to be rolling out with our next release of Garden Plus. And let me show also, since we were talking about filters, this is the way the filters are going to work now, is we're going to be able to apply more than one at a time. So before, you could only do one filter at a time. Now you're going to be able to come in here and filter by can be planted today. So if I filter down to there, I can see here's all the things that I can plant here where I am. And then I can continue to add in things. So if I want to see maybe a perennial that can be planted. Yeah, I didn't think there'd be anything because we're kind of out of the season for planting that. But let's go with favorites. I've already gone in and marked some favorites, acorn squash, so that shows both of them. So we're really excited about these features, among other things we've been working on, but these are the things that we're ready to show today at least. So let us know what y'all think about these. I've got to find y'all's window again. Here you are. Okay. So let us know what y'all think about these new features. We're really excited about them. So let us know if there's any new filters or anything like that you want to see. But let's jump back into your questions. I don't know what jade beans are. Have you heard of jade beans?
I don't know.
It might be too late to do. I mean, it's outside of the season for us on most beans. I don't know what the specific
southern pea.
Yeah, but if it's like there are specific varieties of beans we're still planting deep into the season, like southern peas. The Orient Wonder variety does really well in the heat. Carrie's looking up jade bean now.
Well, I gotta know. I haven't heard of that one. Let's see.
Looks like it's like a standard bush bean. Just check out the app and see what it says for bush beans. Check out what the dates say there. But if I were you, I'm betting it's probably time to start switching to something like southern peas for the temperatures that you're going to be seeing, because they're going to tolerate those better.
That's pretty much that for us right now.
Unless you have an area where it gets shaded in the afternoon. Also, I don't know, like 4 to 9B, I don't know if that means the top end temperatures are as high as I just don't know enough about the temperatures there. But if you're going to be seeing temperatures consistently above 95, if you're getting into the hundreds for a while, and that's going to be happening soon, then I would be switching to either southern peas. Really, southern peas are the main one where we're switching to when it gets that hot. But if you have an area that gets some shade in the afternoon, then you can go ahead and try it. There's definitely no harm in trying. So the question is about, I got to read it real fast. So squash vine borer. Let's talk about the squash vine borer. So squash vine borer is one of the biggest pests that you will see with squash, with trying to grow squash. And this applies to really any type of squash. It can be
melons
or zucchini, like pumpkin, spaghetti squash, all those different plants. You're going to be dealing with squash vine borer. Now, there are some varieties of squash that have solid stems that are harder for that vine borer to bore into and lay its eggs. But for the most part, most of the squash that we grow have hollow stems, and it's easy for it to lay its eggs in there, and then for that little egg to turn into a caterpillar that eats your plants from the inside out. So the best ways to deal with them are to prevent the adult from being able to lay its eggs at the base of the plant. And there's a number of ways you can do that. In the past, we've wrapped the base with aluminum foil, and that has worked well. I heard a really great tip. I think it was from Laura from Park Seed that joined us about taking a 2-liter bottle and cutting the bottom off and putting that over your squash plant, and that keeping the squash borer from getting out. Companion planting will also help. If you have a bunch of herbs around your squash, it'll be harder for the squash vine borer to find it. Those are the biggest things that I would recommend about squash vine borers. And it seems like, I think you also have a question about building healthy compost. So let's answer that too.
Dale, I have a question real quick before you get in compost, if that's okay. So like on my leafy vegetables, I've noticed that some of the leaves have holes in them. Is that always an indication of bugs or something feeding off of them, or do some of them just grow like that? I know that might be a weird question. Like the answer might be, of course it's bugs. What else would it be? But I was just curious.
It's usually an indicator of insects. Now, I mean, it can be other things too. Like it can be like if there was just some sort of damage, like then there could be holes and stuff. But usually it's an indicator of some sort of an insect.
Okay.
So whenever I see the holes in the leaves, I start looking underneath the leaves, and it's pretty easy to see evidence of caterpillar because they leave their poop everywhere. And you see these like little green, kind of looks like how you expect caterpillar poop.
Okay.
So if you see those around, you're dealing with a caterpillar. If I don't see any of that, now I'm looking for things like harlequin bugs.
Yeah, harlequin bugs have been bad this year.
But there's also just things like, grasshoppers that can eat holes all throughout
your plant. What I was wondering is, how would you necessarily indicate are all holes in plants indicative of bad bugs?
Well, I mean, any bug that's chewing a hole in your plant isn't a bug that you want around, but it may not be one that's going to cripple your garden, right? Like if you have a couple of grasshoppers here or there, it's okay. But if you have an infestation of squash bugs, then they're going to destroy your squash. So there are some key bugs you'll learn to really despise. Squash bugs, cucumber beetles transmit diseases, so they become a problem. But a lot of the bugs are pretty easy to manage. Like aphids, you can literally just spray off with a water hose. That's all you have to do. You can do more if you want, but that's all it takes to spray them off. And the biggest thing is just encouraging the good bugs to be there. So, not spraying pesticide is the biggest thing, because if you start doing that, then you're going to kill off the spiders and the praying mantis and
all the good bugs,
ladybugs, and all of them that are helping you out. So, and you know, it's an important thing to know what the bugs are too, because baby ladybugs look super menacing. They look
weird, yeah.
But they are doing a ton of good for you. So that's why it's important to know which bugs are which. And
Right.
So,
I don't know if we wanted to hit the compost. I kind of chopped their question up. I didn't mean to do that.
We'll circle back. We'll have another question about compost, I'm sure. We'll circle back to that. Because I was just thinking, so leaf miners. So neem oil should work for this. The one thing I will caution you on is try not to use neem oil if the temperatures are above 90 degrees, or you have a real potential of suffocating your plants and causing more problems than the leaf miners would. Another thing that works really well for leaf miners are the yellow sticky traps. We have those all throughout our garden, and we're constantly catching leaf miners on them. So you can find links to those in the app. And actually, this is another good segue into showing another new. We just released an update to the app that is rolling out this week, where you are now going to be able to buy things directly in the app without having to leave. So if you click on shop up in the top right, it'll take you into the shopping area. And if you go to accessories, I believe we have those sticky traps right here at the very bottom. Yep. So the yellow sticky trap collection, you can click on them, and then you can add it to your cart, and you know what to do from there. So really excited to have it to where you can just buy things directly in the app without having to go anywhere. And we've built some features into here to make the shopping experience nice. So if you go into tomatoes, for example, then you're going to be able to filter by things like award winners or heirloom. So you can see here's all the award-winning tomatoes, which that's usually a pretty good place to start. Because tomatoes, there's a lot of them, so it helps to have some. And then you can also see our coupon code here, Spoon15 will save you 15% on your order. So very excited to have that out, and shout out to Justin. He's the one of that,
and Dale. Dale's very humble, but Dale had a lot to do with that stuff too.
I just do art class and try and make things look cool. Y'all are the ones that make things actually work, and that's the hard part. So y'all give it to me working, and then I just get to try and make things look cool. So can't get the bugs hold still long enough to identify.
That's difficult.
Well, I mean, get your camera out and try to snap a picture of it, and then
or video even.
Yeah,
maybe
videos.
If they're moving fast, you can catch a video.
Yeah, but if they're running away that fast, then it sounds like they're pretty easy foes, right? Cucumber beetles are the main ones that are like flying away faster than I can
or
get.
harlequin bugs.
Yeah,
they can be.
You've been battling them.
I have been battling them. And the potato beetles. Oh, both of those.
It's been a struggle.
Yes, they want to.
Shout out, by the way, Two Ponds Home Place is the winner of our May contest.
Yes,
she won a Spoma fertilizer, and we have another contest in June, and we have two contests in June. We have one on YouTube, where we are now. If you comment on any of our YouTube videos from the month, then you are entered to win a pack of tomato cages.
Yeah, it's a 3-pack of the tomato cages.
The really nice ones.
Yeah.
Like, I love these tomato cages. They're so sturdy. They're not going anywhere. They're so nice. And then we're excited to do this for the first time. You're going to win a $50 seed chopping spree. And we're going to do this together. So you get to go shopping with us, where we're going to do a live stream. Probably not a live stream. We're just going to make a video together like this, where we're going to go through the app with you, talk to you about what kind of things you want to grow, help you pick out your seeds for the fall, and you get $50 to spend. So we're excited about that. And then we have another contest over on Instagram. So check out our Instagram to see more there. But shout out to Two Ponds Home Place, who won our May contest. Hey, Kelly. Good to see you back again. She was with us last week. I think I remember that name. Train squash up. So you got to be consistent with it from the beginning. So let's explain what this means. Zucchini wants to grow out on the ground. Like that's what it wants to do, is kind of just vine out over the ground. The problem with that is that makes it very easy for the bugs to hide under the leaves. So what we like to do, and it sounds like what Kelly likes to do, is to grow zucchini vertically. So it grows straight up in the air. And now it's harder for the bugs to hide. It's just fewer disease issues, fewer powdery mildew issues, just healthier plants. So the key to that, what we do is we put a T-post in the ground right next to the squash plant. And then as the squash plant grows, we just keep attaching it to the T-post with either the stretchy green tomato tape stuff or twine or something like that, and just keep attaching it up the T-post. But you've got to be good about it. If you forget for a few weeks and it starts to grow one way, it's not going to like it when you try and move it, and you're going to break the plant, and it doesn't go well. So that's the key, is to stay on it and make sure you use something sturdy like a T-post. That's why we use T-post, because when we tried to use something not sturdy enough, it would break, and then the squash plant would die, and we'd be sad. And now we use T-posts.
Can you do that with most vine plants? Like anybody who has been watching the stream knows my struggle with my pumpkin plant. Like, would you be able to do that? Like, I would imagine it's too big by now and it's too long. Like to try and get it to go up now would be
So
probably hurt. But if you start a new one from seed, would it be a good idea to try to do that?
So like zucchini is only going to grow like 3 or 4 feet tall. So that you can do on a T-post. On a pumpkin, you don't want to do that on a T-post, but you can certainly grow those vertically on something like a cattle panel.
Okay.
What we've done is, and it probably is too late to move it now. Like, it's better to start it right next to it, but it is super fun to grow, especially the small pumpkins, on cattle panels. And then you have pumpkins hanging down from there, and like,
yeah.
I like doing loofah on our arch trellis, and then you have like the loofah hanging down.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to try that with pumpkins then, because it's getting unruly. So.
But like with the big pumpkins, it doesn't work as well. You have to start supporting the pumpkins that are hanging, and I'm too
there's
gardener
like
for that.
melon cradles and things like that you can get to help to support them whenever they're hanging on a trellis.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Oh, my favorite thing, my favorite way to trellis tomatoes is what I was just talking about, our cattle panel arch trellises. It is amazing. And it's essentially just, we put some T-posts in the ground, and then we put cattle panel up against it and arched it over. And then we let these tomatoes grow up it and around it. It's amazing.
If you check out our TikTok, you just made a video about it yesterday. That's going out like
yeah.
today or something, probably.
I'll post it right after this live stream, actually.
So check out our TikTok, and you will see videos showing all of this. Yeah. Carrie's been running around frantically making TikToks past week. She's having fun, though.
It is fun. Talk all about stuff in the garden.
We got in trouble on TikTok.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we found out that flame weeding apparently is very dangerous. They did not like it, but we appealed that. So we've got TikTok drama already.
If you're not upsetting somebody, you're being too boring.
Some are saying it's never been dangerous.
I know.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
Is that when you the flame weeding? Was that when you take the blowtorch to the ground? They didn't like that, huh?
Hey, it was around actually a fire ring too, because it was a fire ring garden right there too. So.
Yeah. But I was wearing Crocs and shorts. Not advised. If you're going to use the flamethrower, wear jeans and wear boots.
Yes. Don't be like him.
Yeah. Do not do what I do. I got a disclaimer. But I didn't know she was recording me, to be fair. I'm just over there torching stuff, and then I look over and she's recording me. So
he wasn't trying to be responsible or anything. Just doing what you do.
I'm a trained professional. Okay, I've been rooting basil and rosemary cuttings to make more plants. Awesome. That's awesome. Those are great ones to start with. They're a little bit different in how you do it. Basil is going to be a lot faster to start growing roots. Rosemary is going to take a bit longer. But Some other suggestions for plants that I would recommend doing this with, and let me just back up and briefly explain what it is we're talking about here. So there's a lot of plants that you can make new plants, basically copies of that plant, just by cutting off a piece of it and sticking it in some water or in something like a biodome or something like that to grow roots, and now you have a new plant. So basil and rosemary, as John said, are two great ones. Oregano is another one we do this a lot with. Thyme is one that we do this a lot with. You can also do this with fruit bushes. Blackberries are one that we've done this quite a bit with. You can also do it with tomatoes.
Mint.
Yeah, mint is one that's really easy. With tomatoes, if we have so if I'm pruning a tomato and we have a main stem, like one too many, I will prune that main stem and then cut all the bottom leaves off and then put it in a bucket of water to grow some roots over about a week or so. And then I'll start working on trying to transplant that. Doesn't always work because it's a pretty big plant, but I always try it, and sometimes they take and sometimes they don't.
I saw that you put some over in my sitting area.
In the fish pond?
In the fish pond,
yeah. I thought the fish might help out a little bit.
Yeah.
That was my plan. Instead of the bucket, I put it in the little fish pond.
Yeah.
We got some goldfish and threw them in this little pond area and got this solar little aerator. So I made Carrie a nice little sitting area.
It's nice. I like it.
Dale, what are the pros and cons of clipping off those plants and starting them from a clip versus buying more seeds or starting from a seed?
Just time. Like if you cut off, I can't say time without her.
CHY.
Oh my gosh. Here we go again.
Sorry, that one hit me funny.
Oh man. What were we talking about now?
Seeds versus
yes.
Yeah.
When you take a cutting of the tomato and you root it that way, you're already going to have a pretty large sized tomato plant like ready to go. Whereas if you start one from seed, then you've got to wait for it to germinate, wait for it to, all that. So, okay. And it's just, I mean, I just personally, like when I prune a tomato, I hate just like having this potential of I just hate wasting it. Right. So I'm always going to take a shot at trying to root it and just trying to do something with it.
Is that a high percentage? Does that work a good percentage of the time, doing the cuttings and starting it from there, or is it kind of a gamble? Or
for a tomato, it can be a gamble. For all the other ones, it's very high percentage. For like rosemary, oregano, that's the main way of propagating all of them. That's how nurseries do it. So for like most of rosemary out there, it's not being started from seed. There's cuttings being taken from big plants, and then they propagate it that way. So very reliable for all of those. For tomato, it's reliable if you're good at it. Usually what I do is I put it out there in the bucket and I forget about it and I come back and check on it. And then but if you're persistent about it and you're paying attention to it, then it's pretty reliable for tomatoes too. But for all the others, it's the preferred way of doing it over doing seed for something like rosemary, especially. Because one of the reasons for that too is you know exactly what variety you're getting. A lot of these different plants out there are hybrids of two different plants, right? So whenever that plant goes to seed, you don't necessarily know what kind of plant that seed is going to be.
Yeah.
Whereas if you take a cutting of that plant, you know it's going to be the exact same plant that you cut from. It's going to taste exactly the same. It's going to grow exactly the same. So when we have a rosemary that, like usually, like when we first started our garden, we maybe bought like 10 rosemary plants, and every winter you lose half of them. Well, the ones that survived are the ones I'm cutting from because those are the ones that handle the winter better, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
That's how you can choose, which plants do best for your garden and how to let those propagate.
Very cool.
So we usually follow our lettuce behind with peppers and tomatoes. One of the reasons that we do this is usually what we're doing is we'll have like a bed of lettuce and I'll just plant the tomato in the middle of that lettuce. So it's kind of growing alongside of that lettuce. And then when that lettuce bolts and goes to seed, before it goes to seed, those flowers bring in a ton of pollinators. So I like having the leftover lettuce that now, if you've already cleared it out, then obviously this, but next time try leaving some of the lettuce, letting it go to flower, having your tomatoes next to it. And then it'll help attract a lot of the pollinators and stuff. Another thing that another plant I like to do this with is squash, because squash can sometimes, especially early in the season, we can have issues with pollination. So if we have a bunch of lettuce and other pollinator attractors around the squash, that it can help with pollination on the squash. So those are two great suggestions. It also depends on sunlight and things like that. So that would help guide the decision as well. But check out the app and see where you are, and then I guess you know where you are. But check out the app and see what you can plant where you are, and then go from there. The safest pest control you can use for tomatoes and squash.
So for tomatoes, I know right around all of our tomato plants, we have those yellow sticky traps that we were talking about earlier. Those will work for a lot of your tomato pests. Yeah.
Another one of the biggest pests you're going to have on tomatoes potentially is the tomato hornworm. It will be the biggest because it's a very big,
largest
caterpillar. They are giant, and they're surprisingly hard to find for how big they are. But there's this stuff called BTK caterpillar killer, and it's a naturally occurring soil bacteria. It's completely organic, and it kills caterpillars. So you can put that on your tomato, and when the caterpillar eats it, then the caterpillar explodes from the inside. They're nice way to put that. So that's what it does. But it doesn't do that to humans, thankfully. So
or other critters.
Yes, or worms.
It doesn't hurt any other beneficial
worms are fine
bugs.
with it. Yeah. So those are two things you can do for tomatoes. For squash, it's difficult because the main foe of the squash plant is a squash bug, and they are basically like a cockroach. Like they have a very strong, hard exoskeleton that is very hard for chemicals to get through. So even if you did spray pesticide, a lot of times it doesn't kill them. So for squash, it's got to be hand-to-hand combat. You've got to pick them off. You've got to look for eggs every day. If you see eggs, just have some tape and use it to pull the eggs off. If you put some boards around your garden, oftentimes they'll go under the board, and then you can lift them and smash them from there.
We had a great tip yesterday. We were talking with Gary from the Rusted Garden, and he was saying, he was talking about like flooding, like putting a bunch of water at the base of the squash plant.
So squash bugs are scared of water. They're kind of like goats in that way. And if you spray water down at the base of the squash plant, they all come running. So, and humans are our eyes are really good at seeing movement and things like that. So just stare at the squash plant, spray it with water. You'll see them run around and move, and then you can grab them. You pay your kids $0.25 for every squash bug. You might go broke, but you'll at least have zucchini. Those are all the ways we have found to handle squash. Growing vertically is a big deal too. That's why we do that, because now you've got the birds helping you. You've got the spiders helping you. So tomatoes are easier. That's why we started with that one. Asian jumping worms. We have not had to deal with them, but I would be rounding them up and putting them on a hook and then taking them to the lake and then putting them in the water, catching your fish, and then you have fish fertilizer for your garden. So that's what I would do. Sorry, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's anything you can plant. I'm not sure.
So unfortunately, we do not have BTK in our app right now. We are still trying to get it. We are working on it.
Soon.
It's very soon. We got ours on Amazon though. Search for caterpillar killer. Just BTK caterpillar killer. Maybe that's why we don't. Maybe it's one of those back order things. One moment, she's looking to see.
Let's see.
Well, that's where we bought it before. Was on Amazon. Are you seeing it? Yep, I'm not seeing it either. Well, maybe that's why we are. I see it now. Safer brand. It's on Amazon. Search for Safer brand caterpillar killer. Looks like this. We will have it in our app very soon, though.
Yeah.
We're working on that, I promise. I don't know enough about this to answer your question intelligently. I'm sorry. All of our strawberries are outdoors, and I let them run wild and do whatever they want. So I've never tried to grow strawberries indoors. And I don't know enough about if you should cross-pollinate those. So I'm sorry. It's probably going to be too late to plant carrots. I mean, pretty much yes, but just hold on 2 months. Come August, the window's going to open again for carrots. Now you're going to have to give them some extra care to keep them moist in order to get them to sprout, because they're going to dry out really quick in the heat. But carrots that are grown in the fall taste better than carrots grown in the spring anyway.
Absolutely, they're the best.
Yeah, they get sweeter as it gets colder. That's how plants react to keep them from. That's how they stay alive in the winter, as they produce sugar to keep themselves.
Yeah,
from freezing.
I much prefer growing carrots in the fall than I do in the spring.
Yeah, so just hold off a couple months, and then we're usually planting our carrots usually September. Like, I think you could in August, but it's too hot. I don't want to be out there trying to keep them wet in August, but usually once it starts cooling down in September is when we're getting them in the ground, and we're harvesting them in October and November.
Well, and what we usually do too to help is, like, we get the soil really damp, and then we put like some burlap or something over top, and until they come up, and then take that off. But it'll help keep the soil moist while you're germinating them.
Yeah, but if you check out the app, it'll give you dates that are specific to where you are. Ants and mildew. The ants I wouldn't be too concerned about, but the mildew definitely. I mean, does it? Maybe it's getting too much water. It's hard to know too without knowing if it's in like a grow bag or if it's in a raised bed.
If it's in a grow bag, I wouldn't think it would be getting too much water.
Yeah,
because it can drain really well. Might be a non-drainable container.
Yeah, that's a good thought too.
That'd be.
Did y'all hear the rooster at our door?
Yep.
Rory.
Yeah, he came to our door. He's trying to get inside.
I'll go get him.
Gonna go get him. Go bring him in. See if he wants in. Oh, he does. Dale's got him. Hi, Rory.
He's here to help.
Rory.
Can you use acorn squash listing for Lakota squash? That would work, and then just hold on a few weeks. We'll be releasing custom plants real soon, and then you won't have to do that. But that would work. What do you think, Rory?
He doesn't.
Okay, heat tolerant lettuce. What was the name of that variety? I think it was called Salina. Salina. I spelled that spelling bee. Salina.
Yeah.
It was.
I know we had one that was a really good heat tolerant one.
There was one developed in Nevada. What was the name of that one? If you Google lettuce developed in Nevada, you'll find it. But I think Salina was that one. Salinova is another one too. That's a
you have an amazing memory, because this was a couple years ago too that we experimented with a whole bunch of heat tolerant.
What's driving me nuts not remembering the exact one. I want to say like there was one that was like a fun one that was called Area 51 or something even. I don't know. I'm gonna look it up though, and next time someone asks that, I'll have the answer. But search for Las Vegas lettuce variety, because that's how I'll find it too. Something in okra that curled the leaves. Okra typically doesn't have a lot of issues like that. The first thing that comes to mind is it possible that somebody sprayed herbicide next door or something like that on a windy day and it came over to your plant? Because that happened to our garden once, where the electric company that comes and sprays power lines sprayed on a windy day, and it hit a bunch of our stuff, and we had a lot of that issue too. So the curl leaves is the thing that kind of makes me wonder, because that is like curling and twisting is a big indicator of herbicide damage. So I would check that, because okra is usually pretty resilient. Don't you think, Rory? Okay.
That's one chill chicken. He's
Yes.
Yeah, he's a good.
He's a good guy.
We keep calling him a chicken. I guess he's a chicken.
I'm sorry. I don't want to offend Carrie by using the wrong terminology on her pet, her baby.
He was raised by our 5-year-old, basically. He was carried around ever since he was a chick. So he
expects love.
He crowed at us because we didn't have cat food out, because he comes and eats all the cat food and he gets mad if it's gone.
Yes.
He has so much personality. A ton of rain in 1 week. Now the tomato plant looks terrible. Yeah.
I had a problem with that.
It'll recover. Just let it. Now they look like they're underwatered. I wouldn't just let it have some time to recover. I mean, our tomatoes look like that too, like a couple days after the heavy rain, where they were starting to, like, the leaves will fall. And so that's one of the, like, when you see the leaves fold up, sometimes it is just reaction to too much water or too much whatever. But then usually on a healthy plant, you'll see those leaves start to unfurl, and then you'll see the plant go back to good, and then just make sure they're getting consistent moisture. So we had the same issue where we had so much rain, everything was looking that way, and now it's back to looking great.
And I feel like I'm a little paranoid about worrying about my everything being underwatered to the point where I may overwater it. What's the telltale signs of overwatering something? Or I guess it depends on the plant.
It's difficult because overwatering looks like underwatering sometimes, as far as the way the plant can react. It's pretty easy to know when to water, though, is what I'll say. What I mean by that is only water whenever the soil is dry, like 3 inches down. If it's not, don't water.
Okay.
And if it is dry, water a lot. Like, soak that thing. Like, like you want it to be flooded. No question that it was completely soaked. And then don't water again until it's dry 3 inches down again.
Okay.
So,
are there any indicator, I'm trying to think of something that you might be able to stick in the ground that might, is there like a cheat code? Is there something to where color coded, it'll tell me whenever it needs to be watered?
There's soil moisture sensors, and I've yes, there are soil moisture sensors that you can buy on Amazon, and I've tried them, but they're all gimmicky, and I've held my finger and really I just have to look at my basil plant, because it tells me if the rest of the garden needs water, because it's like my first indicator. When the leaves start wilting on the basil, then I know that everything else is going to need water. Cool. And you'll just get a feel for it eventually. Fly them. Where are you flying? Make sure you have a lot of drainage to prevent root rot. So, if you have a container that is not a smart pot, then drill more holes in it. So it probably just came with one hole in the middle, and that's not going to be enough. What I do with any type of container because we still grow in some containers that aren't smart pots. And for those, I drill a bunch of holes in the bottom. And I also like to fill the bottom with a couple inches of little river rock, just to make sure that it definitely drains really well. So those are some things you can do to help with drainage. And then also make sure that you're using vermiculite in the container, or some sort of a soil mix that has a lot of vermiculite in it. So that's a way that you can help with root rot. Thanks, Carol. Zucchini had green worm on the leaves. Painted beans. No, green worms are fine. You don't have to worry about them taking over necessarily, and they're not going to carry any diseases or anything like that. So just pick the worms off. It's pretty rare to have worms on zucchini.
Yeah, that's
though.
what I was thinking.
Normally, zucchini isn't one of the plants that we're dealing with caterpillars on. So that's strange, but you should just be able to pick them off, or just use the caterpillar killer that we mentioned earlier as well. First Saturday Lime is a great shout out. So first, it's kind of like diatomaceous earth. It works in the same way, and you spread it around and you put it in different areas. It's way more expensive than diatomaceous earth. So that's why I've just gone with diatomaceous earth. But it's definitely a cool product and it works. But we're on like a 5-acre farm, so if I were to try and buy that for this place, it'd be a lot of our paycheck. So that's why we go with diatomaceous earth, because I can go buy it in 50-pound bags at Tractor Supply, or at the feed store or somewhere like that. So, but both of those things work really well. Diatomaceous earth is just crushed, fossilized remains of old sea creatures. That's the best way to say it. But the point is it's very fine powder that clogs up the exoskeleton of insects and makes it where they can't breathe, and then they can't eat your plants anymore. So cut the tops off of tomatoes, grow roots, and then plant those. Well, yeah, you can definitely take a cutting off of your tomatoes. So what I would do is look for a sucker stem, and what that is you'll have, how can I explain this without, you made a video.
Pull up our Instagram. I have a picture on our Instagram.
Okay, I will try and find
that. I just saw our Instagram up there. So.
Yeah, but it's in like the same window that we're in. So let me pull that out. I know that. Is this the picture you're talking about right there? Okay. One moment, y'all.
Yep.
Okay. So now I gotta go find that window again. So this picture right here shows you what a sucker stem looks like. So one that's growing there in the middle between, you've got like your main stem going, and then you've got just a standard leaf stem going. So in between there, you'll have your sucker stem. Now you wouldn't want to cut it when it's this small. You want to wait till it gets probably about 1 foot long, and then you'll cut it. And then all these little hairs that you see in the picture, those would turn into roots. So that's a way that you could propagate that tomato from a cutting like that. Was I not sharing my screen?
No, you got it.
Okay, I just closed the window.
Out of here.
So there's a difference between BTK and BT, and I don't know enough about it to tell you the difference. They're just different.
Okay.
Yeah, they're just different. It's the same idea. They're just different bacteria. One targets caterpillars. I don't remember what BT. I think BT is more for mosquitoes, like the BT dunks. You know, the like what you put in, like so. But the BTK is the one that's specific for caterpillars.
Oh, Malabar spinach.
Malabar spinach is a great shout out. So Malabar spinach is something that grows well in the heat, and it's a green that grows well in the heat. And that is something that is pretty rare, because most of the greens that you have in your garden are not going to do well once it gets hot. So once you get into summer, you know, it was kind of a bummer for us our first gardening year, because in the spring we had all this spinach and all this lettuce, and then in June it was nothing. And so we were scrambling.
We always miss the greens.
Yeah, so in the summer you can switch to Malabar spinach. It's a climbing spinach. It should do really well. It's typically pretty easy to grow. So
where are you going?
Okay.
You just putting this right in my face.
So make sure you grow it on a trellis, because it's going to want to climb. New Zealand spinach is another green that grows well in the summer. It can be difficult to germinate, so just give it some extra time. And it's one that try and germinate indoors. Let me take the chicken outside, and let's circle back to that compost question.
Now he's mad. It's probably going to start crowing at us again through the door, if I had to guess.
Roosters have only so much patience for live streams.
Okay, let's circle back and answer this compost question from before. So, having a healthy compost pile is pretty simple. All you really have to do is try and get equal parts of brown stuff and green stuff together in a pile. So that's the common thing you hear, but let's explain what that means. So like grass clippings are going to be considered green stuff. There's a lot of nitrogen in there. Wood chips are going to be brown stuff. There's a lot of carbon in there. When we were making our own compost, we would try and get a mix of different ingredients. So we'd get wood chips, we'd get
leaves,
coffee grounds,
yeah,
scrap food, all
pumpkins,
these different things. Yeah.
Especially in November, there's lots of pumpkins around.
Shredded leaves are one of our favorite sources too.
Yeah.
And we would just mix all that together into a big pile and then turn the pile over from one pile to another. And we did that a lot our first year of gardening. And then we kind of backed off on it. It's a lot of work to do all of that. And for the scale that we were growing and the scale of the way we were trying to expand our garden, it made more sense to use animals to help us. So we got rabbits, and they started making a bunch of rabbit poop for us, which is basically compost. You can use it immediately. You don't have to compost it. Started making worm bins. That way, there's one problem with compost piles is like the food scraps, stuff like that can attract mice. Sometimes it doesn't break down. It can be inconsistent where you have some of the compost that is broken down, some that isn't. So we prefer to use worms to do all that. So we had a worm bin. That's a really great way to do compost as well. But really, if you just want to have a simple pile, just take some wood chips, grass clippings. You can get coffee grounds from like your near Starbucks. Usually, just you walk in and ask for coffee grounds, they'll give you a big bag of them.
We had a local one that would have just like an area set up for anybody coming in. They could just pick up as much as they wanted.
But what we do now is we buy our compost in bulk. So there's a number of places around here where we are that you can go there. That's all they do is they make compost, and they have bulk materials and things like that. And I've tested their compost quite a bit, and I trust it, and it's just easier for us to buy in bulk. But and we use a lot of our animal poop from rabbits and goats and all that kind of stuff to basically just put it in a big pile and use that as a compost layer as well. So
I had a few questions about compost. So we're not doing that, but we've been cooking more often, and I've been finding us with more scraps left over from our vegetables and stuff like that. Like at what point like you mentioned the amount of work it takes to kind of maintain a compost area. For someone who has like for instance, like we have a square foot garden that's like 4x4. And that's all that we're really doing right now. We wanted our first year to be kind of simple to make sure we didn't overwhelm ourselves too much. Is having a compost pile at that stage, is that just too much work to try and keep up with, or what would you recommend?
Honestly, I would recommend starting with a worm bin.
Okay.
You're going to see better results out of that. You're going to get a product out of it that you're able to use more readily. That's what I would go with. Because with a compost pile, really, like any compost pile that I've had that's smaller than 3 feet tall, I'm kind of wasting my time. It takes forever. So you've got to have a big pile for it to happen quickly.
Okay.
People like to eat your leftovers too.
Yeah. The worms will turn all that into, into stuff. So.
And then how do you, I guess, and I may not understand the smallest details of this, but how do you go about emptying out what you've put into the worm bin without getting rid of all your worms by accident?
The cool thing about worms is if you put food on one side of it, so like they will all go to that side. Also, they avoid light. So
we just take off the top lid and then they usually go down. Yeah,
we had this system that had like 5 layers of worm bins that they could go migrate down, to the bottom one.
Oh, cool.
When we wanted to harvest the top section, we would just have the top section that we didn't feed. Like we would stop feeding the top section, right? So then all the worms would go down anyway. And then when we wanted to harvest it, we'd put it right below a light. And then any worms that were left would now go down, and our top section wouldn't have any worms in it. Awesome. And there's always going to be a couple worms you end up with, but it's fine because they're all going in the garden anyway.
Yeah,
we would harvest those worm castings and use them in like every plant. We would put a cup of that in the bottom of every plant.
Awesome.
I want to get back to doing it again. I miss doing that. I would wish we could do it again. When we moved, we didn't set it back up again, and we have all the other animals, so we kind of discounted. But I think it's worth having that.
Yeah. Beetles.
I don't know, Bonnie. If you could send me a picture of them, that doesn't ring a bell though, based on the description. But if you can send a picture to me at dell@seedspoon.net, I'll let you know what it is. We don't typically trellis our sweet potatoes. We let them vine out all over the ground. But you could put Malabar spinach in there with the sweet potatoes and then have a trellis back behind and then have them climb up. We've done something like that before. All right. And we're getting to the end, so this may be our last question. Recycling programs, those are awesome.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we have a lot of those here in this area as well.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
And then there's also another like woodchip.com too, like if you're looking for
Chip drop.
Or chip drop.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking for deliveries of wood chips.
Well, I think that pretty much wraps us up. Be sure and check out our YouTube channel. We've got a lot of videos that have gone this week. Check out our TikTok. We've got way more that have gone out there. Even she's been posting like 4 videos a day out to our TikTok. So check that out. And then also the app update just went out. So check that out. You'll be able to buy products directly through the app. And the Garden Plus update will be coming out here soon. We mentioned all of our contests earlier, but I want to kind of just briefly mention that those again. We're giving away a lot of cool stuff this month on both YouTube and Instagram. So check those out. And have a good weekend, everybody. Thanks for joining us, and hope y'all get something planted this weekend.
It's been fun.
Thanks, Patrick.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.